Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 111 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show and podcast. I'm your host. I'm back, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex, and joining me today, all in his lonesome, is Scott Williams. Scott, how are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I know you wanted someone in the top 100k in the world with you today, and unfortunately, I was the only one that fitted that bill. So here I am. Unfortunately, Paz, don't know if he's in the top million. So
I don't think he is, to be honest, but there you go. But thanks for joining us today, Scott. And today, we're going to be talking a little bit about FPL, but mostly more about football and the start to the Premier League season before we come back with a full FPL podcast next week. It is international break, so hopefully, for our listeners, this gives you some light listening, and I hope you really enjoy our take on the start of the Premier League season. But don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms: of more Pod, of more P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And do not forget to like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also give us 5 stars where we get our podcast from, and subscribe there too. Right, let's start off with Manager of the Week for game week 3, and it was Gooner Glory, Sam Kimoni. From the United States of America. Well done to you, Sam. Overall rank 34k in the world, 258 points total so far, 102 of them coming last week. Raya White Hall, none of them doing very well for you, to be fair. Dina, Saka, Eze, Diaz, Smith Rowe, and Bumo, Haaland, Isak. Well done to you. Really good captain Haaland for his hat trick, his first ever hat trick away from the Etihad, Manchester City. So well done for jumping on that one. You had Luis Diaz. If you didn't have Salah, you had to have Diaz. Some of us had Jota. Whoopsies. But there you go. Let's do Manager of the Week. Manager of the Week, Manager of the Month as well. So August's Manager of the Month is our man who sits top of the league, Charles Takaveda. I like Vader rather than Vada. I think Takaveda sounds very cool. You sound like you
yeah,
should be a very slick winger playing for, like, I don't know, well, probably Chelsea, because everyone plays for Chelsea these days, don't they?
yeah, or Celtic. I feel like it's like
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know
good
that.
shout.
Yeah, they've had a few. Like it sounds a bit Japanesey that name. I hope that doesn't offend anyone. But I know they've had a few few good Japanese players down the years, haven't they?
They have, and I'm just running through the top lot, so apologies if I butcher any names. But we've got first place, obviously, Charles. Second, well done to Sam Danby Bailey, friend of the podcast. Well done to you, Sam. 2 points off the top. 2 points further back, we've got Kieran Ball, the Crystal Balls. Great name. Well done, Kieran. Great name for a fantasy team. Sam Camoni in fourth, Mark Anderson fifth, Dennis Bjork in sixth. Only 11 points off the top there as well, so it's really close. Alison Blunderland, Scott Williams, seventh place. Well done, Scott. Only 17 points off the top of the league. Fantastic start to the season for you.
Getting a
Uh,
nosebleed.
Absolutely love Scott Seeley's name. Thomas the Frank Engine. Love that in eighth place. Arif Khan with Leo Arif in ninth. And Marco, always up near the top, feels like. So well done to you, Marco, in 10th place. So manager of the month goes to Charles Takaveda. Um, Team of the season so far. Apologies to Barry because he actually did a graphic for us that we'll post on the socials platform, but I didn't get the opportunity to upload it this week before we started. So sorry for that one, Baz. But it will be very Liverpool heavy. But Baz has put together the team of the season that was affordable so far. So I'm gonna read it out for all listeners and watchers. It will be David Raya in goal. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Romero and Porro. Who would have thought it would have been a double defence for Spurs to start the season? Mbumo, Onana, Luis Diaz, Madueke, and the obvious Salah, Haaland, and Danny Welbeck. On the bench would have been Fabianski with 1 point, because obviously he could have afforded him. João Pedro, Rico Lewis, and Michael Keane. So that team was valued at 100 points. It would have starting 11 points of 276. So if we had a look at our league, if you'd have started with that team and made no changes so far and never captained anybody,
Hmm.
you'd still be top of the league. Any notable surprises in there for you, Scott? Other than maybe the double
I
Spurs
think
defense?
the double Spurs defense because they've only kept one clean sheet. So obviously that's coming from I think Romero. Well, both scored, didn't they? Porro scored against Leicester, and Romero scored as well. So that's where them points are coming from, plus the clean sheet against Everton. But to be fair, away at Leicester. opening game and away at Newcastle. You probably don't really expect clean sheets there. So nothing too surprising. I guess it's a tough one. Nothing too surprising because you've watched the first three games of the season and they've all done really well. But I guess before the season, Madueke, that was my under 1% differential for the season. So obviously, bit of a punt. So that'll be one that you be interested to see if you can do it long term as well. He looked quite bright second game. Obviously, your obvious ones are Haaland and Salah. Diaz has looked really, really good. I'm a bit like you. I've got Jota in now, so I've got Salah as well, thankfully. But Diaz has looked super sharp, like super, super sharp. Jota's not looked bad, but he's looked a level above Jota. He's been up there with Salah for me, like on par with Salah. How he's looked this season. And yeah, I can't really remember any of the other ones you said, mate. So
No, it's fair. I think the interesting thing about there again is seeing someone like Onana in there at 5 mil. I can't see that being a sustainable thing really, unless he continues to bag from set pieces like he's been doing,
yeah,
which is possible. He's obviously a target man for them, one of the tallest players in the team, and I think when I look at the defenders, Romero and Porro in there, fair enough. I mean, they're actually the fourth and fifth highest scoring defenders. There are three Liverpool defenders in above them, Trent Robertson and Van Dijk. So are all above them. They obviously haven't conceded a goal yet, Liverpool. So they've done amazingly well. So I'm not surprised to see the Spurs players in an affordable team that you could actually have selected. Welbeck, I think Welbeck's delivering 23 points so far. Obviously, João Pedro 18 points. They've delivered the goods, and I'm not so sure how sustainable that Brighton form will be, considering the way the first few games have gone. But at the same time, yeah, I think I'm just a little bit more skeptical than most. I think a lot of people are really, really rating Brighton highly. And
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Look, they beat a super poor Everton team, right? And then they got a last minute winner against Man United. Man United obviously with a really unlucky goal to be disallowed. And Declan Rice, got sent off against Arsenal. One thing I will say though, I was listening to the game on the radio. As soon as Declan Rice, for a lot of that game, it was fairly even, but as soon as Declan Rice got sent off, it was all Brighton. So contrast that to Newcastle, the opening day of the season against Southampton.
yeah,
And Southampton, you you could sort of hold back a little bit, etc., etc. But I know Brighton really went for it and was really pushing, and you could see by the substitutions that the manager wanted to get all 3 points. It was disappointing actually in the game. Listening to him, it was disappointing not to get all three. But I agree, I'm not 100% convinced. Like I think they're a decent team, but I can see them going on a little. The next two games was really really nice games, and then
yes.
that Chelsea way, Spurs home, Newcastle way. That's when we'll really see what this Brighton team's about.
I totally agree with that. And I do also think Veltman's incredibly lucky not to get sent off. I think on a different day, a different ref, he's not even tried to kick the ball. He's been really tried to be clever and get Rice sent off, but he's kicked him. So I think a different ref on a different day, they could have both been down to 10 men, to be honest. It could have easily gone away.
I think I disagree with that. I thought Veltman was fine.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think he kicked him. I think he was very clever.
Yeah, I think he's very clever, but at the end of the day, he's gone to take a free kick. Declan Rice is, by the way, Declan Rice, love him. I've always banged on about him. Horrendous moment for him. What a stupid thing to do. It's such a ridiculous. I tell you what, as well, they lose a point, they lead by 1 point this season. They'll be looking back on that game and go, bloody hell, what have we done there, kind of thing, because they've got on those opening three games, they've won the hard one away at Villa, the one that they lost to Villa twice last season. So actually, that could be a big slip up already, especially how Man City have started the season and Liverpool. But yeah, I felt Veltman. I felt he was pretty clever, but at the same time, if a player's doing that, not getting out of your way, you've got all the right in the world to take a quick free kick. So
It's Arsenal. I totally agree with the if that's 2 points drop for them in general. It's so foolish because he's always getting booked on the first tackle as well. He's never getting the ball. It's one of those tackles where he's always going to get booked, and you see it coming, and you see on the slow mo he looks up and watches the player as well. It's like he's got frustrated, and I really Yeah, disappointing. He'll look back at that and think he's had a mental lapse in that game, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, quality player, obviously, but yeah, I'd be really disappointed in that game. Liverpool, we'll touch on in a little bit more detail now. Trent Robertson and Virgil. From an FPL perspective, incredibly unlucky, I think. Quan Saronas, you took the right decision at the beginning of the season to put him in your team. He was the starting centre back of what's turned out to be the best defence in the league. Sometimes in FPL, you just get unlucky, and I think that is one of the decisions that you've just got damn unlucky with. And now he's not going to get back in the team. And for some of you, you lost point two in terms of value, and be waiting to get him out on a wild card. And others like yourself, Scott, got him out before he went down in price, and you've had to almost waste a transfer on a player that was right. But no goals conceded. Gravenberch in the six looks really, really good. I'm That was the position I thought they might struggle with this year. A lot more solid, a lot more compact. Um, Looked like a real team, even with no extra signings other than Kaiser, obviously. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I thought they looked class. Like you say, like obviously the style has changed a little bit. It's gone from heavy metal football under Jurgen, high press, high line. Under Jurgen, he's just really backing that pace, wasn't he? Of Virgil and Trent and Robbo. But now it's a bit more reserved. But I wouldn't say it's as extreme as I was thought it may have been at the start of the season. Like they're playing some really good stuff, and yeah, Salah just looks like a new player as well. Like I don't know if it's because he's just like, yeah, I'm off at the end of this year. I'm just going to kind of just give it my all, kind of thing, which he alluded to at the end of the game. It just seems like at the start of last season, he was he did start the season with contributions, but I think we said on the pod he was scoring, but he didn't look on the eye that good. I would compare him to probably like an Isaac at the start of this season. Like he somehow fluked 9 points this week, and I don't think from watching the highlights he deserved that at all. And that's a bit like how Salah started last year, but now it's like every time he gets the ball, he looks so dangerous. He looks like he could do something at any point. And yeah, having that defensive sort of mindset there with Gravenberch, who obviously he's come from doing really good stuff. Was it Ajax? Ajax he came from?
Can't remember. One of the Dutch team.
Yeah,
Can't remember what it was.
yeah, yeah. Ajax. I think he played under he played under your man at Ajax.
We didn't
Um,
sign him.
no, unbelievably not. The one player that should have signed, right?
I know.
Um, but yeah, they look quality, and I mean, look, it's been 3 games. But how can you not look at the results? Yes, they've had Ipswich, which one of the easier games, but probably the trickiest ever time to play Ipswich away, the first game of the season. And then Man United, looked all right in Charity Shield, and then started the season. They grinded that first result against Fulham. Obviously, had a disappointment against Brighton, but to lose 3-0 to Liverpool or Liverpool to beat Man United 3-0 is a bit of a statement as well. Yeah, I was really, really impressed how they handled that game.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Men against boys, really, in that match. To be fair, and unfortunately for United fans, I think one of the things for me was after that match was I was sat there going, here come the same old narratives that we had all the last season. Here come the first two games of this season. I think we've played well actually in both, and then Neville actually said that, and I saw the Carragher roll his eyes and do one of these on the podcast. It's a fact we've played better in both. We've had majority of the possession in both games. I think in these three corresponding fixtures last season, we faced nearly 70 something shots, and this season we faced 27. Like we've have looked more solid in the first two games of the season. We look pretty good in the Community Shield, and then a couple of individual errors from Casemiro have really set us back, and Liverpool by far the better team. So I think there's a huge overreaction after that game for United, but I do understand where it comes from because it feels like it's same old from
I
that one
think,
performance.
yeah, I think Rashford's got to get dropped, right? You've got to
Oh
you've
God, yeah,
you've got to play Diallo. Diallo started the season really bright, and then Garnacho's.
yeah.
I don't understand what's happened there. Obviously, he started against Liverpool. You've got to start with them too.
Well,
Rashford.
Ten
But
Hag said about Garnacho that he just isn't fully match fit, so that's why
yeah,
he's not
that
played.
makes sense.
So yeah, absolutely. It's we really
But
really miss Hoyland because
yeah,
Xerxes offered absolutely nothing in that game. He looked lost, to be honest. Um,
it must be quite tough as a Man United sport though when you look at your rivals and you look at obviously the robot that is Haaland up front, bagging, bagging, bagging. Salah for Liverpool, just done it season after season after season. And then even now you look at Arsenal, Saka. Saka is just so
yeah.
consistent. And you look at Man United and go, oh, sometimes Garnacho plays well, sometimes Bruno. You haven't got that star, have you, at Man United?
Yeah, that consistent player that's going to score one in every two games, like
Yeah,
that's the player that we need, but it's funny when you look at the statistics of the games when Hoyland, Garnacho, Rashford, and Bruno all play together. I think until like really quite late on in the season, they were unbeaten. Like we won every game with them, and the season before that when Casemiro and Rashford were world class before they became horrendous players. Which is just the drop off's just frightening for both of them. It's ridiculous. But when Casemiro, Bruno, and Ericsson played together, they were undefeated. I do think for some reason he's not playing Ericsson. I don't understand it. I don't understand how he's not. But then he's been picked in the Europa League squad, so he is still part of the plans, and he got refused to move on deadline day. So he
mm,
must still be part of the plans somehow. But yeah, but Man United will be that team a bit like again, like we've seen with Chelsea against Palace. And after battering Wolves, they're just going to be that sort of inconsistent team. I want to come on to Chelsea in just 1 second, just to make a point in terms of fantasy points. Salah being top back with 41, Diaz with 32, both miles clear of then quite a close group together, including three of the big sort of five premiums. Palmer on 25, Saka 24, then we've got Mbumo on 24, Madueke 22, Son on 21, and then Onana on 20. So we've got the four of the five premiums, or all of the ones that were over 10 million. All of them are in the top sort of six, seven midfielders. Value it seems worth it, Scott, doesn't it? Palmer and Madueke up there, though. What's your take on Chelsea and also premium FPL midfielders?
yeah. Madueke is still a bit of a watch and see for me. I think having it 6.6, it's still really really good value. He I only saw the highlights of the Crystal Palace game, but apparently he again looked quite dangerous in that game. Um,
He had a higher XG in that game than he did against Wolves, and he scored no
well,
goals, and he got three against Wolves.
oh yeah, 0.59, 0.54 against Wolves, yeah. And even had similar overall goal involvements as well. So yeah, that's pretty mad. I would say one thing, and some of the listeners may have missed this. Palmer has been left out of the Europa Conference League Chelsea squad. So that's him not playing Europe until next year. So
Did not know
yeah,
that.
yeah, it came out about an hour or so ago. Massive news. So it just makes him a bit more of an asset because yes, he's going to play every game anyway, but he's playing every Premier League game now, and he's not be worried about fitness or anything like that. So that is something really interesting. They left a couple out. They left Casado out. No, Lavia out as well.
Oh, did they? Okay.
And but yeah, he was obviously the big one. They're obviously just thinking, look, as well they should. We will be qualifying for the next stage without them, and they absolutely should when they're playing bloody Morley and Chapel Alton, whoever they're playing.
Mm.
But massive, really, that isn't it? That's you know,
Yeah, especially when you look at the next four fixtures: Bournemouth away, West Ham away, Brighton at home, Forest at home. They're
yeah,
seven good fixtures really. I mean, two away games maybe not so amazing, but yeah, it means the next midweek Premier League fixture is in December, so he's going to be playing because he's not going to play the League Cup games. So that means he's playing one game a week all the way until December.
yeah, and
Mm.
he's looked good as well. He's looked good. Obviously, people are figuring out a bit more this season, but world-class players will always find a way, regardless, and he does look decent. So I haven't been too drawn to him, but he'll be one that I'm like, crap, do I need to find a way to get him in the next few games? It might be for me, looking at the fixtures, it might be one of those to watch and see. They go on a bit of a tricky run, then maybe in the November time, run up to Christmas, they go on a bit of a nicer run again. So that might be where I kind of think that might be around the time I might be wild carding anyway. That I might look at bringing them back in. But I think to utilise them, you want to be getting them in this side of Christmas and January because I think the knockout rounds start about February time, don't they, for the Conference League?
Yeah,
So I expect
yeah.
them to be in good for that when they get to the knockout. They still want to win a trophy at the end of the day. So yeah, one just to keep an eye on and monitor. That's a big player left out of European squad. I can't remember last time that.
No, it's a big moment. I think that the apartment was going to get overlooked only because of something I'm pointing at now to YouTube watchers. Salah's got Forest and Bournemouth both at home, and then Wolves away in 4, 5, and 6. Then followed by some quite tough fixtures, and then Saka from has Spurs away, City away, but then has Leicester at home, Southampton at home, and Bournemouth away. And I think the game week 6, the biggest transfer is going to be Salah to Saka because that is those two fixtures for Saka are pretty incredible. And that they're both coming just before what's going to be an international break between 7 and 8. So if people do want to move off him before Bournemouth away, but then Liverpool, Newcastle, and Chelsea, then fair enough. But I can't see people going without Saka for Leicester at home, Southampton at home. So even if they're not transferring Salah out, they'll be transferring somebody else out to move funds. Yeah, that's I think when we're looking at the next 4 fixtures, we're looking more detail at next week. That game week 6 is going to be a big one for
Mm.
probably the first 2 weeks. Captain Salah next 2 weeks, Captain Saka. But obviously, let's not forget about the robot that is Haaland. Before we touch on Haaland and City, I just want to have a word on Brian and Boomer for you, Scott. He's got 2 horrendous fixtures coming up after this. It was Spurs away and then City away, then Spurs away, sorry. But then he's got a nice run. West Ham at home, Wolves at home, Man United away. You never know what's going to happen. Ipswich at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home, Everton away, Leicester at home. There's a run there from game week 6 all the way to game week 13, which you'd start him in every single match, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he looks class. I really wanted him. I wanted him in this week, but just didn't have the cherries to take out. I think it was Anthony Gordon. Really, really wanted him in my team. He's done the business for 2 years. It's not like he started this season. Well, he's done it for a couple of seasons now, and
3, yeah. 3 seasons in a row there, Scott. Yeah.
yeah, 3 seasons. He's looked really, really good. Even looked pretty sharp against Liverpool in game week 2 as well. He looked like he could do some damage, but yeah, he's on it. Him and Visser up front have got that connection working well for him. And yeah, he's someone that you've got to be looking at coming in. They've started the season really good. Well, end of the day, Brentford fan, you want to be beating Southampton at home and Palace at home. Liverpool's a free hit. They've done exactly that. So they've started the season, probably where they wanted and expected to be. But he'll be one on keeping an eye on. The noise is gone now around Tony. Maybe the squad will feel a bit more settled as well on top of that. But yeah, game week 6, that could be one that I'd be looking at maybe doing someone like a Gordon out because Newcastle have not looked on it at all.
No, they haven't. Just to touch on Southampton while they're here, and also it's a shame obviously Baz isn't here for this bit of the conversation because I know he feels very very strongly about how much he doesn't rate Russell Martin and thinks that he's basically going to see Southampton get relegated. I completely agree with him though in the way that it's panned out, the goals they conceded. It's just another, but I mean, they mentioned it actually. I think Danny Murphy said it on
Actually.
Match of the Day too. He just went, if they doesn't do something different, it's just going to be another Burnley. And obviously I said that in game week 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, do you, what do you think? What do you think? Is he just
Oh yeah,
leading them to doom, or is it what's the?
yeah. He needs to learn from company last season. If he doesn't, he's an idiot. Put it that way. He needs to adapt and not just look. You can play in the championship one way and be beating teams like Sheffield Wednesday, Millwall, QPR. and play with that. But you've also got to have the know about to each week look at a team and go, okay, would they press? We can't be passing out from the back because they're gonna press. Again, I like to throw it back to when we play five-a-side football, and anyone who plays five-a-side football. Look, when a team's chasing the game, they will press on you. So when your keeper rolls it out, they're going to press on you. So that's not the time to be passing out from the back. You want to be going up long. So they need to have an outlet. And I'm not sure. I mean, they've got Armstrong, who's the striker, isn't he, at the minute, and he's
Yeah.
not tall, so he's not going to be winning the headers. So then they need to figure out maybe a bit more of an outlet up there as well, because as well you've got the quality in the championship to pass it out from the back, but you haven't got that quality. You haven't got players good enough in the Premier League to do that. You can play a good style of football. Look at Leeds United a few years ago. Their style of football was just press, 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 and it's exciting and it's fun to watch. Whereas just passing it out, tick attacker and out the back, and you could see Ramsdale wasn't sure what to do. He went long a couple of times, and do you know why he went long a couple of times? Because even sometimes at Arsenal and Man City, they go long when nothing's on. They go to the outlet, and they've got a goalkeeper. What they need to remember now is they've got a goalkeeper who's, he's no Raya with his distribution, but he's got decent distribution. He's got better distribution than McCarthy. So back him. Maybe not even just lofting the ball up to a header. Actually back him to do a ball and put Armstrong, because he's got pace, put Armstrong in behind the back, put Diaz in behind the back, someone like that. But it needs to not be as arrogant and change, because it took a worldie for him. The goal was brilliant as well by Sugawara. But other than that, they look nowhere near like scoring either. So yeah, got to adapt.
Which is really exciting as a Flecken goalkeeper owner in the 96th minute to have a worldie when you're
Yeah,
3-0 down. It was that, we talked about this last season. That was one of those moments was I was having
pointless.
a bad week anyway, and then
Yeah,
that just got wiped out, and I'm like, no, no, not having no. This week is bad. This week is a bad week. And then obviously I didn't bring Salah in because I'm a Man United fan, and even though I knew it could happen, so I waited a week to bring Salah in, and again that cost me. If I'd have brought Salah in, I wouldn't have brought Palmer in, and I'd have captained Haaland. So the whole thing cost me about 20 points, but including the hit. So it's just didn't quite work out for me, and then that wasn't great. In terms of the bottom of the league, though, Scott, and I agree, by the way, they need to have a plan B, don't they, Southampton? And Ramsdale, as a goalkeeper, is not Arsenal level in my opinion. He's never been Arsenal level in my opinion. But I think he's better than Southampton. I think he's
yes,
not a champion.
yes.
So it's weird. He's kind of gone from being in this to this, and now he's going to look really good. I think actually a couple of great
But
saves.
he's never been at his level, has he? He was at
No,
Sheffield United, who are at the bottom of the league, and he's gone at the top. You just need to get yourself a Bournemouth get rid
yeah,
of Kepa and be getting at Bournemouth kind of thing, don't you? So,
I totally agree. That's the sort of level that he is. Do you know what? I think he'd do all right like at a West Ham. If Ariola
yeah.
goes, that sort of level that maybe getting into Europe, but he's just anyway. But looking at the bottom six now, we know that Leicester aren't going to get a points deduction. These are the teams that I think I think these were the bottom five in most predictions anyway. Obviously taking Palace out. I think when we looked at it at the end, probably Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton as the teams that were going to come up. Everton were probably going to be borderline on the top of there. Everyone thinks they'll get out of it because they'll have a slow start and move forward. And then Wolves, with everything that's been going on around them, not spending any money, etc. There's no surprises there, is there, Scott, with those teams that are
No.
down there other than
Should we
other
do,
than
should we
maybe
do the
Palace.
should we do the bottom seven or just the bottom? Just in the bottom six, do we? All right, okay.
Just bot,
Uh,
just bottom six, mate. Just bottom six.
top of the league when you're at one point in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, no surprises. Yeah, it's one of those. Do you know what? I've always thought Everton will get out of it, but they're playing so badly at the minute. It'll be interesting. I think Broya has got a big job to do. Like that'll be. They can't. I mean, it's the last season at Goodison Park. They can't. They've never been relegated, have they, from the top flight
I think
or
so.
something ridiculous like
I
that?
think no, I
Like,
think that's
they,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're one of like two teams or whatever. I think I don't know who the other one is, but might just be them. But yeah, they can't get rid of them. Last season at Goodison Park. But yeah, I think at the minute Southampton. I think we've all called that Ipswich are going to do it Luton and probably end up going down. But be super brave about it. And I think the other team will be. Let's see. I don't know. I think it's like Wolves and Everton. I think Palace will do enough. I think Eze will get them over the line.
Yeah, Palace will be fine.
If
Yeah.
Eze's been so unlucky at the start of the season. He just keeps really scoring wilders, and
He does. It's so true. He just keeps nearly. And then he did score a
yeah,
worldie, didn't he?
yeah,
Like, oh, yeah, Palace I think will be okay. Now they've kept hold of Gahey and Eze. I think those are big
yeah. I think
big holds.
I would say for Everton, they've got a boy. What's the left winger called? He looks so good actually in a
What
really poor start.
Dwight McNeil?
Not Dwight McNeil.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. That
Undai.
yeah, and he played in the 10, didn't he? I think and did he play
Yeah,
in the 10?
yeah, yeah. Undai. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he looks a real deal.
Yeah,
Obviously
he does.
from a fantasy perspective, he's got no points really this season. But on the old eye test, he's looked really good, and that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, what a collapse from Everton. That was ridiculous.
It was frightening that Dominic Calvert-Lewin 1 goal, 1 assist against Bournemouth. See what happens, eh?
Watching the highlights, there should have been about six in the wall.
I think that's
Like,
the frightening thing, isn't it? That's the
uh,
latest ever comeback, wasn't it? The latest ever
mm,
comeback from being 2-0
yeah.
down. It's absolutely mental how horrendous is ended up working out for them there. Again, looking at the table, we've got, we can scoot over that lot. Uh, Fair play to a couple of teams who are up here. Obviously, we've talked about Brighton already. Looking decent, not world beaten, but decent. But yeah, I think they'll get a couple of good results and still be up there when it comes down to the next international break. Newcastle not looking good at all, but still on 7 points. So fair play did the perfect job on Spurs though, didn't they? Like those counter
Yeah.
attacks, he just were. They were Spurs are a bit sometimes ask for that, don't they? But yeah, fair play to Bournemouth and Forest. Scott, these two teams here, both got tough fixtures next. But do you think they look like teams that'll be down there at the end of the season, or do you think they're looking like teams that should be more than capable of being safe?
No, I think Bournemouth and Forest will be all right. As much as I dislike Forest still, to be honest with you, I think they've got a pretty decent squad actually. And when I've watched them, they've looked pretty good. Bournemouth as well. Obviously, they should have lost the last game. Let's be honest. They should have
Hmm.
lost against Everton. But have looked pretty handy. They were so unlucky against Newcastle not to get the 3 points as well. So a couple of weird starts to the season for them. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. Probably sort of middle bottom half both of those teams. But I don't think they'll be worried about relegation. I think again similar to last year. I think the weak teams are a bit adrift. Like I think that bottom six already to me is there's a bit of a gap there between them and everyone else from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, when you look at the group of play, I mean, look at the teams just directly above. Man United, West Ham, Fulham, Chelsea, and Spurs are the next teams above,
Yeah.
and none of them will be down there towards the end of the season. So,
Mm.
like, when you think about it, let's just take that group out. Forest are on 5 points, Leicester are on one. So there's already a 4 point gap after 3 games from two of those teams that probably would be down there. You'd have thought towards the end of the season. Yeah, it's shaping up. I mean, the top Arsenal should be up there. Really, they should be top three on 9 points. Really, but obviously the way that it's worked out, these things happen in games. Fair play to Newcastle for getting the results they have done. But yeah, they need to look a hell of a lot better than what they have done. Let's should we talk about Robot?
He's all right, isn't he?
Got to point out from a fantasy perspective. So Mo Salah has got so far this season a goal in each game and 3 assists. So 3 goals and 3 assists. Erling Haaland has scored 7 goals and got no assists, and they're on the same amount of points. It just goes to show how much more strikers have to do to get more points than midfielders do, which is why we always talk about investing the money in midfielders. Um, but yeah, Mr. Robot, 2 hat tricks.
Yeah, is the real obviously the real deal. His goals have been so different as well already this season. He's scored a couple from outside the box, which you don't see too many from Haaland
Mm.
from outside the box. He scored, the one where he went through and I think it was for his hat trick, and just like dinks the keeper.
Oh,
So composed.
beautiful.
Yeah, like, there's not many players. Him and Kane come to mind straight away. Players that are just one on one. You like, well, goal, 100% goal. Just
Yeah.
so much confidence in him, and yeah, he's just looking class. And I reckon this game week will be the highest proportion of wildcards ever after 3 game weeks because the amount of people that have started the season without both Haaland and Salah, and I reckon a lot of people like I just need to get them in. I know if I had not started the season with him or and I had no way of getting to him without a wild card, I would be wild carding him because it's not like they've scored a couple of scrappy goals in each game or whatever. They've both loved the real, real, real deal. And the longer you go without them, your peers are just going to move further and further and further away from you. So yeah,
Mhm.
Haaland, class, really good, and I think he's really he's thriving because Kevin De Bruyne's got started the season fantastic as well, and
Yeah.
obviously when he plays well, Haaland will play well. So
De Bruyne at the beginning of the season, we had this conversation. I thought I thought he was being overlooked,
mm,
and quite severely. And obviously, I know in our draft, we had a Baz had the choice, didn't he, between Ødegaard and De Bruyne. And I understand why he went Ødegaard. I would have always gone De Bruyne in that situation, because of the ceiling of the points that he can get, and you can always move off. And Ødegaard's going to play 38 games. He's probably going to play 90 minutes every game, and he's probably going to get you 130, 140 points. So he's going to be super, super consistent. But on a season where De Bruyne is on fire, he can get you 200 points. But when he's had a season where he's poor, you can just transfer him out and get rid of him. And you
mm,
probably get another midfielder in who's a bit cheaper who could get you 120 points. And that's why I think De Bruyne is somebody who so many people this season are going to want to have in their team, but just can't afford him because everyone else is so expensive.
yeah,
But he's going to be one of them that someone sits there and goes, I really want him. City's fixtures: Brentford at home next, which won't be an easy game, by any stretch of the imagination, but you can't imagine them losing. Big game against Arsenal at home. Then Newcastle away. I back them to do really well in that game still.
yeah.
Fulham at home, Wolves away, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away, Brighton away, and Spurs at home before Liverpool away in game week 13. Yeah, I think all the way up to game week 10. Obviously, that game week 5 game is tough, but from 4 through 10, can't have him, can you? I'm so happy I've got him. I've brought Salah in for this week already, before
Yeah.
the price rises. You just can't not, and I'll have to have both of them because I had such a good start to the season in the first 2 weeks, and having no Salah this week just absolutely destroyed me, to be honest. I got
One,
55 points.
oh yeah, it's a tough one. One thing I will say, I was thinking about this earlier, because there's so many like premiums this season, like we've said already a few times, and then they're all performing. I think if you're really bothered about doing well in fantasy football, you need to be keeping an eye on match of the day, match of the day too, and watching football as much as you can, because this is when you will actually see and have a better indication of how the players are actually playing. Like anyone can get a tap in and whatnot, but how are they looking on the pitch? How are they linking up with the other players? How is the team around them playing? Because you could look at someone like an Isaac, for example. A lot of people have got him in the team. I've got him in the team. 5 points, 2 points, 9 points. Pretty decent start to the season, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Really.
definitely,
But
definitely, yeah.
but from watching a Newcastle game live and watching the highlights, I'm not that thrilled to have him in my team at this point. So and on the contrast to that, this is not a substitution I'm going to do. And Watkins is not delivered points, but he's actually looked all right. Yeah, he's looked lively. He's making runs. He's just not scored. So yeah, from a season where there's so many options, I think it's going to come down to actually watch the games, have a look, because and another player that comes to mind is Morgan Rogers. I have is 5.1 million. I've had him. I got him at 5 million. I'm pretty happy with him staying in my team. Like, there's
Yeah.
no, other players. He's got 2 points, 2 points, 2 points. You might look at that and go, he's not done anything. He's done fantastic. He's done anything but. everything but get a goal or an assist. So he'll be staying, especially with Villa's run of fixtures. He'll be staying in my team. Yeah, just something to bear in mind.
I completely agree. Everton at home, Wolves at home, Ipswich away next three for Aston Villa. I've done exactly the same. I've had Rodgers in at 5 mil. He's gone up to 5.1. Looks class. He's playing. He's definitely starting for me. Yeah. I think a player that we have to mention from Villa is John Duran or
Yeah.
Duran. Looked really good when he's come on, and he's delivering the goods in terms of putting the ball in the net. Watkins is going to have with Bailey's. Is Bailey injured? I think he went off injured.
He went off injured, yeah.
I know this may sound a bit left field, but you know that Watkins can play from that left-hand side of the front three. Will he start there and Duran go up front? I don't know. Maybe with those three fixtures, John Duran would be a really good draft shout. I think
Hmm.
as a player, I don't think he'll be owned in any of people's draft leagues really. With those three fixtures, he's probably going to get minutes in all the games. He's looked good. Take a draft punt on him, I think. Um,
He scored twice, hasn't he, this season?
Twice
Yeah.
in
They're
not
on.
very
They're
in.
on. Yeah.
Hey,
They're on.
way, way. He's got great reflexes. Anyway, so let's have a look at the rest of these strikers. Haaland at the top, 41 points. Then the rest, 23 points. Next is Welbeck. It feels again, we've got a good little array of around 6 million strikers that can really help us with our fantasy teams at the moment. Welbeck at 5.7, Visser 6.1. I think Chris Woods looked really good at 6.1. I'm really happy to have him in my team. And no, I think Forest fixtures aren't the greatest in the world. Liverpool away, Brighton away next two, yeah. But then Fulham at home, decent. And then Chelsea away in game week 7. Yeah, not the greatest, maybe a first sub job. But still, he's been delivering some. He scored twice and he got that ruled out for offside. What a great finish that was as well. Like, when you say watching match of the day,
Mm.
what a great finish that was, and he got ruled out for offside.
Yeah, on the
Visser
turn, it was really.
Visser at 6.1. Love a Visser shout here. If you're on a wild card right now, he's probably not the pick. But when you're looking at maybe wild cards in game week 8, which a lot of people will look at, he's somebody that you could look at bringing in for that run of fixtures afterwards in terms of facilitating it. Man United away, Ipswich at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home, Everton away, Leicester at home. You know, I think Visser might be somebody in a lot of wild cards. João Pedro at 5.7. He's someone I've brought in this week to help facilitate the money for Salah, with the Ipswich at home, Forest at home games being the next two. Um, for me, the structure feels like Haaland, two cheaper strikers, spend the money in midfield, and then even though you've got, then you want either probably Raya, if you're wildcard right now, you probably want either Raya or Allison as your goalkeeper at 5.5, showing great value. And then actually, you can probably, in terms of defenders, these top defenders here are all higher priced defenders, but none of them have outscored any of these 4.6s by more than sort of 6 or 7 points. So you don't want to be spending the money in up front, sorry, in defence. You want to be spending it at this sort of level and going with some good rotations. I think if I'm looking at a wild card structure right now, which a lot of people will be, yeah, Haaland, two cheaper strikers, João Pedro, Wood, whatever, João Pedro, Visser, whatever. Midfield, spending your money, Salah, plus some more, and then Raya or Allison, probably Allison. I think I want a piece of both defences. So maybe one defender from the team that you don't go for the goalkeeper of, and then go for your cheaper defenders. That's what I'd be doing right now anyway, for anyone who's on a wild card. Which yeah, if I think Cully already has, unfortunately for him.
Probably.
Should listen to the advice. Uh, Scott, let's should we just do a quick touch on the international stuff before we wrap up? Any other teams that you wanted to, or any other points you maybe wanted to make on here before we quickly touch on the Nations League and wrap up?
Nope. All good.
Yeah, I think we've touched on pretty much every team there, which is good. Yeah, so international fixtures. England play Ireland, don't they? We're in the sort of slightly weaker side because we got relegated, didn't we?
Mm.
Um, yeah, we. What do you make of the selection? A couple of the newer players in there. Madueke obviously getting his call up. Morgan Gibbs White, Lee Carsley showing his faith in the younger ones. Any
Yeah.
any thoughts on the team, and will you be watching the games and everything?
Yeah, I like what he's done, Carsley. Let's be honest, he's going to get the job. He's going to get the England job. Of course, he is. Unless we get beat like comfortably in these next few games, he's getting the England job. So anyone listening, get it in your head. Lee Carsley is going to be the England manager. There's no way they're just going to get Potter. If they was going to get Potter in, they'd have already got Graham Potter in. And then all the other managers really have got jobs. So, and it's right. The more I've thought about it, the more I've actually reflected on it. I think I'm fairly happy with it. He's obviously got great success in England on the 21s, which Southgate did as well. And he's I like the balance. He's not just gone, right, my team, I know all these young boys, I'm going to get loads of them in. He's gone, actually, I want to bring some of them in, but I'm also going to keep, the core of the team that, has done so well over the last six to 8 years. So I really like what he's done. I really like that he's kind of a little bit sort of, I would say like left field with a couple of the choices. Gomez for one.
Yes.
Um, I feel like players that play overseas. Does he play in France, Germany? I don't know. He plays.
He plays in France for Lille, I think it is. Centre
Lille,
midfield.
that's it, yeah. And he's done really well for a couple of seasons. I know that because he's had FIFA cards. So I know he's had a great couple of seasons there, and he just knows the young players that he's brought in, and even like the players that you'd say is our superstars now. Let's not forget Palmer, Foden. He had them at under 21s. Now, obviously, two of those players are withdrawn already from the squad. But we know what Palmer's about. We know what Foden's about. I think it's a bit of a shame that Watkins has had to withdraw. I feel like a couple of goals might have boosted his confidence in these games.
Yeah.
I know, obviously, but it gives people a chance. There's no Bellingham; he's injured, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this New England team plays as well. He's going to have his own style of play. Let's just see for a bit more attacking. And Ireland first game, they've got a brand new manager. Never heard of him. Apparently English. I feel like my ball knowledge is pretty good, but I've never heard of the guy. Um,
Uh, I mean, I don't know if I have either. Heimir,
Heimir,
Heimir, Grimson.
oh, he's Icelandic. That's
Well,
yeah. I was going to say I looked.
Son will do it at the end, won't it? Son is always
Yeah,
Icelandic in at the end.
I saw the flag, and it must have been an Icelandic flag, and I was like, "That's English." No, anyway. But yeah, that'll be interesting. I will keep an eye on the game. I'm off to go watch the Mighty Scunthorpe United on Saturday with the mother. But yeah, may watch it, but don't particularly get too excited about these kind of games.
Be
I'm
interesting
more
to see.
excited. I'm more excited because it is Council's first game to see what happens.
Yeah, I want to see how they line up. I want to see how they play. I want to see what sort of style he impresses on them. And final thing to wrap up, Scott, a couple of notable transfers on deadline day. Sterling going to Arsenal. I loved that narrative, by the way. When Man United were going to sign Sterling, it was they're signing an overrated player, for paying way too much money, and this, that, and the other. And then he goes to Arsenal, and then it's this is the signing that could win them the league. I thought it was brilliant. I love the press. In the same day, those were the two headlines that I saw on Sky Sports as well, of all places.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's a great signing for Arsenal. Um,
For the
I
deal they've
like,
got, yeah,
yeah, I
paying
like it.
100K of his 300K wages a week.
Love
Really,
it.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because
and
because like you say, he'll rip up the weaker team.
oh, he will flat track bully. He will absolutely smash them to pieces. And I think he'll do a really good job for them. A really big asset. Any other notable transfers that you thought were pretty awesome? Obviously Tony going to Saudi was a bit weird. Half price Tony, as they call him, got a cut price deal,
I
didn't they?
mean, could he
80
could he
million in the
take?
transfer window.
Yeah, but I mean, put yourself in Tony's perspective. He was playing for my club about 6, 7 years ago. So he's getting paid half a million a week. It's tough to turn down, right? So, and do you know what? He's still young enough to go there, do a couple of seasons, get his bag, and come back. And who knows, play for a mid-table, to maybe an Aston Villa or West Ham again. So it's not over for him. But that was an interesting one. I thought that the goalkeeper movement was quite interesting. Kepa to Bournemouth, and then
Neto
who
to
else
Arsenal.
then?
Neto to Arsenal,
Neto to Arsenal. Yeah,
Johnston to Wolves,
yeah. There was a
S-
lot of merry-go-rounds. I'll be interested to see how
Sata
Kepa does.
Saudi.
Yeah, interesting to see how Kepa does because he started really strong at Chelsea and it's obviously fallen off a cliff and been warming a bench at Madrid. So that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, and then just again to see how Sancho gets on at Chelsea.
If he gets on the pitch, I think that's one of
Yeah,
the main things. Because I mean, yeah, I think they've got so many players in there, and we've been this Ugarte signing for us is very make or break for United season. That position is it has to work. Otherwise, Ten Hag's gone, and it won't get past. If this guy turns out to be a poor signing and we don't shore up a little bit more, then he probably won't make Christmas. To be honest, but if he
he
turns
seems
out to it'd be better.
yeah he seems pretty ruthless. To Jim Ratcliffe, doesn't he? Like I think he really wanted to get rid of him. He didn't. Like at the end of the
Yeah,
season, but twofold they won a cup and they couldn't get anyone else in. But it's like you said, like that VAR decision for Coventry, it'd have been gone like after that game
yeah.
probably. Like
It wouldn't have made the bus. It wouldn't have made the bus. He wouldn't have made the bus home.
no,
Like
no,
when the goal went in, I was watching the game. I literally said, "That's him fired."
yeah,
Then that moment, he was done. And then it's the. I do also think they've kept hold of him, yeah, because they couldn't find anyone better. But also they've kept hold of him because he's an easy fall guy as their first
yeah,
manager. If their regime of their first transfer window, everyone come together hasn't doesn't work. He's the easy blame.
it's true.
Um, and everyone looks at Ruud van Nistelrooy, and we all know as soon as Ten Hag gets fired, Van Nistelrooy's got it to the rest of the season. We all know that's what's going to happen. We're not going to hire another manager. We're going to do a big process and blah blah blah. And Van Nistelrooy will have it until the end of the season. Everyone looks at Ruud on the bench. All United fans have done this. We've all gone. He's been brought in case Ten Hag gets fired, and it's yeah, anyway. But let's. I like finishing off the podcast talking about how bad Man United are. So that's wonderful, and that sets me in a really good mood for the rest of the season. Rest of the season. Rest of the evening. So Scott, thank you very much for joining us this week, and I hope everyone really enjoyed a slightly different twist on the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show and podcast. We'll be back at our usual time and usual slot next week, and we will be talking all things FPL. And Barry will be back with us talking about how we can fit any player in his team under 1%. Don't forget to like the video on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow us on social media platforms, Pod, P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and to give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast from. And click the little button, the icon, so you to get told when we do a new podcast. Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers, mate.
And it's goodbye from me. And let's be honest, we all want Scunthorpe to win. Up the iron. Bye for now.